Hi folks, today's human-centered design method is called the Abstraction Ladder. I'm Aaron Aldemus, Program Director with the Consortium for Public Education. What is an abstraction ladder? An abstraction ladder is a design method that uses reflective questions, why and how, to focus or expand the scope of a challenge or question. An abstraction ladder creates a conversational structure to guide question design, and it can help verify whether or not a question is viable or suitable to your work. If you struggle to respond to either the how or why questions, then perhaps a different focus is needed. In terms of the design cycle, abstraction laddering is part of the define or ideate phases, depending on how you choose to use it. How we define a problem or question can greatly impact the rest of the design process. For example, imagine that students are not focused on their work in class. How we phrase this challenge will affect the rest of our problem-solving process. For example, how might we decrease students' misbehaviors versus how might we engage more students in class? Here you can see how these two different questions could have a very different impact on the classroom. An abstraction ladder asks participants to consider multiple drafts of a challenge, rather than simply starting with the first challenge statement that comes to mind. When creating an abstraction ladder, imagine you are starting at the middle rung of a ladder. If you climb up each rung, you will explore increasingly abstract questions and ideas. If you climb down, you will explore increasingly specific questions and ideas. So, let's look at this process. Exploring why. Step 1. Choose a problem or question that you would like to explore. We often recommend using how might we questions, here abbreviated as HMW, as a way to frame a particular challenge. The language of a how might we question is helpful. Using words like might or can rather than should invite more possibilities. And using we makes the question inclusive, shows that we're all in this together. Your initial how might we question doesn't have to be perfect. The abstraction ladder will help you refine it. So here's our example. How might we design a new school garden? Step 2. Write your initial how might we question in the center of your workspace. So here we have our question, how might we design a new school garden? And we're going to center that on the middle rung of our ladder. Then step 3, ask yourself, why is this important? Why should we do this? Or why do this? You're basically asking why you should pursue your original question. Let's return to our question, how might we design a new school garden? So why do this? Well, because gardens support sustainability. Fair enough. That takes us to step 4. Write a new challenge or question based on your response. Here, you see we've written a new question. How might we make our school more sustainable? You'll notice how the new question is broader, more abstract than the original. Step 5. In response to the new question, again ask, why? So why tackle this new question? Well, because sustainability will be a major challenge for Generation Z. So on to step 6. Write a new, more abstract challenge or question. And here we are, at the top of our ladder. How might we address sustainability issues in our community? From here, you can repeat this process for as long as you like. Eventually, your framing may become too abstract to be useful. However, you can explore more than one question at each rung on the ladder. So if we return to our abstraction ladder and our original question, we can divide it up and we can respond to questions over and over again. Why, and come up with multiple reasons at each level of abstraction. This can yield a lot of questions, but it doesn't pigeonhole you into just one question at every rung on the ladder. So here we've added a second column and responded once again to why we might build a new school garden. And the new reason is because students are unaware of the benefits of fresh produce. And in response to that new reason, we've written a new question. How might we raise student awareness of healthy living habits? So again, we're moving away from the focus of a school garden explicitly and getting a little broader with our thinking and a little more abstract with our questions. If we go up the ladder once again and ask, well, why do this? Because healthy habits now will have long-term benefits. And we could keep going, but you get the point. Now, how do you know if the question you've put at the middle of your ladder is the right question to start with? As you work up the rungs of the ladder, asking why, if you find that you are struggling to respond to that question, consider two things. You may need to take time out to learn more about the topic before continuing to explore specific design questions, or you may also consider that the original question was not right for you and your team. And once you've developed several questions, choosing which question is right for you and your team may depend on several factors. The scope of your work, time and resources, and in particular, if you're working with students, you might consider which question will spark curiosity, inspiration, or wonder. So on to the second half of this process, exploring how. You'll notice that we start out with the same first step, choosing a problem or question that you would like to explore. Here we're going to revisit our school example. How might we design a new school garden? So once again, we start with that question and go on to step 2. You write your initial problem statement in the center of your workspace. And then step 3. Ask yourself, how might we do this? Or how might this be possible? Here, we say, how might we do this? Well, by studying ecosystems. Or by asking students to take care of the garden during activity periods. Step 4. Write a new challenge or question based on your response. So here we add 2 new questions to our ladder. How might we use our knowledge of ecosystems to create a thriving school garden? Here adding a little bit of specific content to the question. Or how might we teach students how to care for a school garden? Notice how each new question is now more specific than the original. Step number 5. In response to the new question, again ask how. And here are 2 new reasons. 1, by working with local farmers, and 2, by making videos about garden care. Step 6. Write a new, more detailed challenge or question. Here are our last 2. How might we work with local farmers to create a school garden ecosystem? And how might we use audio-video technology to train student gardeners? And again, you can repeat this process several times or until you find the level that meets your needs. But typically, our team explores 3 rungs both up and down the ladder for a given question. While this method is most often used to refine challenges or questions, it can also be used as a way to brainstorm solutions. As you travel down the ladder, asking how, you can use your responses as real potential solutions. If you would like to use the ladder for brainstorming, consider adding multiple columns for each rung or level of your abstraction ladder. This will give you an opportunity to generate multiple ideas on each rung. And again, going both up and down the ladder is a good gut check on whether the original question you have posted is one you should be engaging with. As you work down the rungs of the ladder, asking how, if you find that you are struggling to respond to that question, consider 2 things. You may need to take time out to learn more about the topic before continuing to explore specific design questions. Or you may also consider that the original question was not right for you and your team. And if you are creating a question for your students, for example, a driving question for project-based learning, if you cannot answer how, then your students may not be able to either. Now, let's talk about how to do this abstraction ladder both in person and virtually. If you're working in person, an abstraction ladder can be completed using a blank workspace such as a whiteboard, tabletop, or flip chart paper, sticky notes, and markers. If you're working on your own, you can also just use lined paper. So let's say you are working in a group, and so you'll use sticky notes. First, you start with your how might we question, and then you post your responses moving up the ladder. You don't actually have to draw the rungs either, and you just build from there. If you'd like to clearly distinguish between questions and responses, you can use 2 different colors of sticky notes. If you're working virtually, This method can be facilitated using a table created in Google Docs or a shareable Microsoft Word document. Participants can enter ideas in each row of the table in the same way that we did in this video. To review. Remember, this method is intended to generate multiple versions of a challenge or question, with variations in abstraction and specificity. Second, going down the ladder, asking how, can also be used as a form of brainstorming. And, if you are unsure of the question you want to tackle, use this method to explore your options. As always, thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.